I'm Kerry Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. In this next season of the Get Your New View podcast, I'd like you to meet even more members of our New View team who have brought examples of their favorite projects they've worked on with our customers to create efficiencies, utilize automation, and simply use even more of the features of their Business Central software.
Hey, so everyone, we're going to take a little bit of a change up this week. And previously, Kerry's been interviewing everybody else on our team about different ways that we've been able to make a difference, certainly save a lot of time, drive incredible insights for some of our clients. I'm going to go ahead and interview Kerry this week. So hi, Kerry.
Hi, Mark.
How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm so excited to be here talking with you about these different topics because these are my favorite things to talk about, and I've got so many stories to share.
I knew it. We're going to talk about dimensions and account schedules and just driving great financial insights out of those static numbers that are on everybody's spreadsheets and in the system and everything else. And like I said, saving a whole lot of time. So where do you want to start?
Let's start by talking about account schedules. This is really kind of the end process, and we work with lots of clients with their financial reporting.
Fantastic. You have been one of the worldwide experts and proponents around account schedules for as long as I've known you, I think. So probably coming up on 15 years, and it amazes me how many folks still really don't use account schedules. We're coming across it almost every day. It seems, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I keep thinking every year that particular market is going to dry up and suddenly everybody will be using those tools or something else instead of what they're doing. But I find that that's not the case time and time again as we begin to work with new clients.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And universally too, I think when they finally sit down and go through us and see the power of account schedules and really relatively how simple it is to use, just the vistas open up and it's like a light shines down from above and there are angels singing, right?
Exactly. It sounds silly, but we teach a lot of classes, and one of my favorite classes are the Controllers Bootcamp series. And when we have the account schedule class, everybody is excited and leaving with smiles on their faces at the end of that day and leave us such wonderful comments about the things that they have learned that are going to help them to be much faster and get accurate results. And they're genuinely excited about financial reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you got a million stories to share. Can you pick just one about how you worked with the company and got them to the nirvana that we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. This one just stands out in my mind because I've seen it with this person in particular, but I see their story in other people as well. So Bob was a CFO who came to me, and he was just completely frustrated with financial reporting. And he really liked what he could do with Business Central, but he was just done with financial reporting because he had had some really bad experiences. And what Bob was doing was something that a whole lot of companies, I would say the majority still, he was taking his trial balance and he was putting it into Excel. And because he was taking his trial balance and putting it into Excel, there were a lot of things that he had to do to make sure that that was ready to present to other people, most importantly, the rest of the executive team and the board. And he would spend a couple of days every month putting that trial balance into Excel and then manipulating it. He had some nice looking reports. He had some charts and dashboards that he'd put together using Excel that went back to this data, but he still had to do a lot of stuff with formatting and kind of pushing things around. So it looked inconsistent. It wasn't really professional month to month. When you sat down and looked at him, it wasn't this nice book of financial statements. It was pretty obvious that it wasn't coming out of the system. And the other thing that that was really a problem is that when he updated it, because of how he was doing it, especially if he had just some small changes, he would go in there and he'd update things by hand. And he had recently made a mistake where he didn't link things correctly, didn't have time to check it, and he reported some wrong numbers to the board, which was super embarrassing. Yeah. And they were understanding, kind of, but it was still an embarrassing professional moment. He said, I don't want to have that happen again. And he was frustrated too, because he'd tried to delegate this and, use his team to help them to do that. And it was so complex, they just really couldn't get it done right. So he was constantly still having to push things around. He's like, we've got to be able to make this more simple so that somebody else could do it. And more importantly, so it's going to be accurate every time. So we sat down and we talked about what he could do, and had some particular goals in mind, that it had to come out of the system. It had to be accurate, of course, all the time. It had to be easy to do, and he should be able to replicate it quickly so that he could really get things done. So we went through the reports he had, and he really didn't have a whole lot of complex stuff to begin with. He had an income statement, he had a balance sheet, he had a couple of reports showing what was going on with different departments and their budgets. And then, of course, he had some of these charts and graphs that he incorporated. So we made sure that we could replicate that, but then we were also able to expand on that with what we built. It was fun watching him just really get excited as we built this, because we built the income statement and talked about it and said, what's working with this and what's not working. And by building a couple of different views on the same thing, we were able to answer different questions just from that. So we could have the income statement in there showing what is it last month versus this month, but we could also say, well, what's the last 12 months? So we could answer trends and we could see what was happening there. So the end result with Bob was that we certainly were able to introduce a lot of consistency. He was able to do it directly out of the system. And we created a refreshable Excel shell so that we could have him keep all of the charts and things that he was using to illustrate things graphically, but have the accuracy that we get out of account schedules, insert those numbers whenever he made a change, and do that in a way that was super quick. He was really happy with that, and he showed it to the board, and they really liked the end result, especially with how consistent it looked. It looked more professional. They asked him, go back and talk with NewView and see what else we can incorporate to answer some of these questions. So he started to expand on it and incorporated their budgets. They had always had all their budgets in Excel, so he started showing the comparisons in budgets. And one of the cool side effects from this is that, of course, when we have budgets, we're always asking the question of how did we do with actuals versus what we planned, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the other really common questions is how much of my budget is left? So he was able to put together a schedule in there that allowed him to answer that question. And he trained his sales team and his department managers how they could look at that inside of Business Central and answer the question themselves. So the sales team could take a look and they'd say, well, what's left in the forecast this month? What's our number? What do we have to hit? And same thing with the department managers. So
no dozens of emails towards the end of the month from the sales team anymore.
Yeah. Correct. And he still produced those reports, and they put them out on SharePoint and distributed them. But honestly, he said that for the most part, people were just going into Business Central and looking at it real time because they got their question answered at the time that they needed it. So the other thing that I noticed is that Bob was actually starting to use account schedules as a research tool for his own purposes and was really staying on top of things way ahead of the month end. Normally, he had to wait until the very end of the month and past the month end period to get the final results. But because he was looking at account schedules inside of the system as things were happening, he could look to see what was happening with the different expenses and revenues way ahead of the month end, and was able to answer questions much easier without that delay of saying, well, we'll wait until the month end happens.
So everybody watching, is there no doubt that this is one of Kerry's favorite topics, right? Just unpacking the power and the insights and everything else and the time savings. And I mean, there's so many tangential benefits to this. You know what strikes me, Kerry? A couple of things. One is every story I hear about count schedules starts with, well, I dump the data into Excel and I reformat it and I cut out these lines and I do totals and this and that. And oh my goodness, all the just extra manipulation that doesn't really help drive any insights, right? All
Yep.
that, what's that called? Non-value added time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Seems like every story starts like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are lots of reasons for that. I could probably put together a list of 10 reasons why people stop using a system and start putting their financials into Excel. There are a lot of special requests that happen out there, but account schedules can really manage those requests and use the best of both worlds to make sure that your numbers are coming out of your system. And then you can build whatever those extra things are in that final package, but you can keep it the same and know that those numbers are accurate. And that's the most important thing for accountants.
The other thing that pops into my mind, are you familiar with the boiling frog analogy?
Yes.
And so, boy, this strikes me as one of those situations for somebody who's not very familiar with that. I've never tested this, mind you. I've just heard about it, but it's a great kind of mindset to have. The theory is that if you put a frog in tepid water and you slowly increase the temperature over time, they will boil. Mm-hmm. But if you throw them, of course, in a pot of boiling water, they'll jump out immediately. And the idea is little incremental changes over time go very unnoticed. And so when you're telling me this story, I completely see what I've witnessed in a lot of companies where, especially if you're producing something manually, Excel's a beautiful tool. I absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. But you have the ability to do so much in there, right? And so over time, you get a request to do this and do that, and all these things are possible in Excel. And before you notice it, you've created this unsustainable monster of a reporting package, right? When it's not really all needed, but nobody's ever gone back to say, is this all really needed? And if you can go back to what can I get out of the system and just drive what you really need out of that, and just take another look at it, the amount of time you can save is just incredible, right? So, Kerry, I mean, powerful story. We've got a million of those. Why do we still see so many out there who aren't really taking full advantage of account schedules? Why do so many folks struggle with this? Why is there so much still happening manually in Excel every month?
Yeah. So there's a few different reasons, and a lot of them are outside inputs, things that we may not think that we can put inside of Business Central. A lot of times we can. One thing that makes me think about that is ratio analysis. We often want to know what's the quick ratio, what's the current ratio, what are my inventory turns, all of those kind of things. And there's not necessarily a place to put that inside of Business Central, but I can tell you with a little bit of creative solving, which we can do, you can build those kind of ratios in account schedules, and you can start answering some of those questions like, what was my revenue by head count, or what were my inventory terms, or exactly where I am with cash. So we can do all kinds of things where those kind of calculations can be included and directly outside of Business Central, not necessarily by putting our numbers into Excel and then having Excel do all the heavy lifting.
Son of a gun. That's just a natural thought. Well, if I want to calculate those kind of ratios, I'm going to have to dump a bunch of numbers in Excel and let Excel work its formulas, right? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, huge insight there.
Yep.
Son of a gun. Have you followed up with Bob? I'm just curious. He's just got to be elated still, right? The amount of time that he's saving, the insights that he's driving. I think you mentioned, now he can delegate some of his work as well, and he's not bogged down with this, and be able to do more what he's capable of is really driving those insights and driving some better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and he has contacted me recently because he wanted to engage us for some additional work to help with dimensions. He wasn't doing much with dimensions for a while, and that's a conversation for another day. But he did put together his financial statement package in a way where it was standardized. He's got somebody on his team who's doing it now, and he's really been able to move up when that's done because it's not so impactful when they're making changes. It's very easy to make a quick change in there and update that. But he's starting to move on into the world of dimensions and expand on what he can do with his account schedules in that direction as well.
Right. What really sticks in my mind too is the fact that he's able to push out some of that information and some of that ownership, right, out into the rest of the company, which is always powerful when you can make that happen. You get everybody focused on the same thing, you can drive real results.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I recall from when I talked with Bob is he was working on really taking down the time that he needed to accomplish his month-end close. So as he was focusing on that, he started focusing on himself, right, with the process of just getting the financials put together, and then was working with his team on some other ways to shorten up their month-end close. So they're getting it done in a couple of days instead of a couple of weeks. And he called me pretty excited one day. He said one of his budget managers came in to talk with him about the financial statements, which he said was amazing at all, because before we started this whole process, nobody else in the company cared about the financials. And this person told him he was excited about getting the financials faster because he could do something about it. And that was such a light bulb moment with Bob. He said, well, of course, before we were delivering their financials to them once the month end was over. So no matter what result they had, good or bad, they couldn't replicate it in time to actually change the behavior of the organization. So this person who came to visit him, just told him, thanks for getting these to us earlier, because now I don't feel like there's nothing I can do. I can see exactly what's needed and I can take action, and I can see the results of that action next month when the next set of financials come out. And it seems like, something obvious, but if you really think about that, delivering those financials earlier so that people can change their behavior so that they see the results happening in real time, that's an amazing outcome from having financial reporting that's better quality and certainly delivered faster.
We just finished a whole podcast series on change management, and I got to tell you, that's change management, maybe 201. That's a little bit more of an advanced concept, but getting that kind of buy-in, because they're sharing in the outcome, you can accomplish great things when that happens. That's a beautiful, beautiful outcome there.
Yeah,
wow.
I love to hear those kind of stories and certainly be a part of making that happen.
Yeah. And for everybody watching who's in the finance department, you heard it right. Kerry said they're closing their books in 2 days, and that's very achievable. And I challenge anybody to say that isn't, because Kerry and the team have worked with a lot of companies to make that happen. I probably don't need to go into all the benefits of doing that and the cost savings involved and everything else, and saving the stress on your team. There are, probably 100 benefits that we could cite by closing the books that fast, but it's very, very achievable.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I didn't want to gloss over that point, because that's a big one too.
Yeah.
But that's another story, I think, as well, right?
Yeah, it sure is. So we've got so many wonderful stories to tell about the things that Business Central has helped our clients to do. And we love to get in and roll up our sleeves and show them how we've accomplished that for other people and get it done for them as well.
Kerry, always a pleasure to chat, especially when we can take time and talk about some success that we've driven for clients, and for you to share your passion around account schedules. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah, you bet. We will see everybody soon. Thanks for watching.
I'm Kerry Peters. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Your New View podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to ensure that you get notified whenever new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple Podcasts. If you are ready to rethink today for tomorrow, look for the link below and contact us to speak with our expert team. You won't find the level of no-nonsense real-world experience we offer anywhere else, and we're here to put that experience to work for you. Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you suspect there just has to be a better way and you don't know what it is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.